Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. President Donald Trump is destroying, dismantling, taking a gigantic wrecking ball to the Democratic Party in real time. We are watching the real-time dismantling of a political party. And they did it to themselves. From cheating Bernie Sanders in 2016 to lying about Trump every second of the day, accusing him of being a Kremlin operative, recreating or creating a new Cold War simply because they couldn't stand losing to Trump in 2016. Not one shred of evidence bolstered any investigation into Trump regarding him being a potential operative of another country. They literally purchased a Steele dossier with Bernie Sanders' money, almost certainly. Hit subscribe to the channel right now. Then you get the attempt at imprisoning Trump with Jack Smith. That failed miserably. Now Chuck Schumer, and you'll hear from President Trump, Chuck Schumer, and others in a second. First of all, trout fishing at Hood Park. Thank you so much for your generosity, giving people 5 memberships. I appreciate that. Greatly appreciate that. Trout fishing. Thank you so much, sir. Greatly appreciated. And thank you for watching. Thank you for always watching. I appreciate that. New York Times, AOC lashes out at Schumer. New Republic, Democrats push AOC to take Schumer's seat. I would love that for a number of reasons. We'll get to that in a second. Hit subscribe. Democrats, as a political party, are pretty much the Democratic Party that we used to know, that wielded immense influence in American politics, that's gone. And Chuck Schumer is living proof of that. Hit subscribe to my super chat. Thank you. Trout fishing at Hood Park. Thank you. Members, thank you so much. Let's get started.
The division within the Democratic Party is on full display as lawmakers are being called out over sudden change of heart after passing the GOP spending bill to avert a government shutdown.
Madeline Rivera joins us in Washington with the latest. Hey, Madeline.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Yeah, the backlash against Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for advancing the GOP stopgap spending bill is growing. One progressive group, Indivisible, is calling on Schumer to step aside. They say he gave up a rare moment of leverage for Democrats and, quote, surrendered to President Trump and Republicans.
What leverage? The president, Trump Republicans don't care if the government is shut down to ensure that laws are, that people follow the law, that DOGE continues slashing and cutting funding for wasteful, potentially fraudulent programs. What's the problem? Nobody voted for $20 million for Sesame Street in the Middle East. Not one person voted for that. And we can go bizarre, absurd medical lab experiments. We can go on forever. Nobody voted for these things. Okay, USAID, unfortunately, was tied potentially to a lot of fundraising for Democrats. So what leverage do they have? They have no leverage at all. All the funding for the Democratic Party, or I should say a great deal of the funding, according to Elon Musk and others, stems from government bureaucracy. Now that government bureaucracy is being completely demolished. So what leverage do Democrats have? They have nobody waiting in 28. We have J.D. Vance. You could look. I wouldn't vote for Rubio or DeSantis, but those are options. Maybe, who knows, if they become more populist in terms of never-ending military conflict. I want to prevent nuclear confrontations. So the morally superior liberal Democrats need to understand you're not morally superior if your political party allows a nuclear confrontation to potentially end existence. So what leverage do Democrats have? They lost the popular vote every battleground state. They derived their political influence and funding. The fundraising emanates, according to Elon Musk and others, from a Byzantine labyrinth of bureaucracy, government grants and funding for things like USAID that nobody has any there's never been transparency regarding this funding. Go to DOGE.gov. You can see all the absurd nonsense that Democrats want to fund. And it all goes back somehow to the Democratic Party. So Schumer has zero leverage. If anything, he had to actually side with Trump on this stopgap bill, because that's the last time, probably ever, Democrats are going to get that type of government funding. DOGE is going to continue to slash and cut and expose wasteful, potentially fraudulent spending. Let's continue.
The organization's co-executive director saying this: "We thank him for his service, but we need new leadership in this moment, and we understand to get there, we need a chorus of support for change." There are reports that New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is being urged to primary Schumer next cycle, but she's getting some criticism from Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman over her calls to.
To my viewers in Nepal, Dai, thank you so very much. That's a very interesting statement, and I hope I'm happy that President Trump is helping. Thank you always so much for watching for so long. I pray to God that AOC primary Schumer. AOC had her own fundraising issue when she first became a congresswoman. She was accused by Hans A. von Spakovsky, a former FEC chairman, stated that there were potentially shady, possibly corrupt and illegal things going on with AOC's campaign. But of course, it's the Democratic Party, so they've gotten away with pretty much everything up until recently. But anyway, I'm not so sure that AOC or people who haven't been there for like decades understand completely how the Democratic Party raises money. I am not so sure about that. I don't know if AOC knows all the corrupt, illegal, potentially scandalous means at the disposal of Pelosi or Schumer. So it would be very interesting to have AOC, who already had a campaign funding or fundraising issue when she first became a congresswoman. It would be very interesting to have AOC run the Democratic Party the way Schumer and Pelosi have.
Buck the Republican bill. Fetterman is saying, "What's the exit plan once we shut the government down? What about all the millions of Americans who are going to have their lives damaged? What about the ones that won't have any paycheck? She'll have her paycheck, though." And former independent Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema is accusing Ocasio-Cortez and other lawmakers of hypocrisy for pushing the Senate Dems to filibuster the spending bill. Just a few years ago, you might remember, they had wanted to get rid of the tool to pass former President Biden's agenda. The filibuster requires most bills to have 60 votes to clear the Senate, but Ocasio-Cortez is pushing back against Sinema, saying she did not have a change of heart. Instead, she says the same Dems who argue to keep the filibuster for when we need it do not in fact use it when we need it. It's only used to block Dem policies, never to block harmful GOP ones. Could have proved this wrong. Instead, they proved the point. Charlie, Rachel, and Joey.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie.
You got it.
Well,
Because Chuck Schumer's been around a long time.
Stalio, thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Does AOC know that the Democratic Party doesn't have primaries? Does AOC know that they cheated Bernie Sanders and they did the same thing to Trump? And they wouldn't touch her Green New Deal proposal with a 10-foot pole? They wouldn't even bring it up in 2024. Why is that? Because it's a racket. And AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are part of it. AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren exist to funnel left-leaning votes back into the Democratic Party run by Schumer and Pelosi. It's a racket. When was the last time you heard AOC talk about single-payer health care or Medicare for all? It's not feasible in a country of 350, who knows how many people we have, because Democrats never bothered to enforce immigration laws that they passed. But it's not feasible even on a state level, okay? Vermont doesn't have single-payer health care. So the point is, they don't believe in the things they claim to believe in. I thought that AOC wanted to abolish the filibuster. They had the House and Senate years back. Why didn't they do that? Oh, that's right. Nothing they say they ever believe in.
And he knows what happens when there are government shutdowns, that usually the party that shuts it down gets blamed. So was he just saving, Charlie, I mean, you've been around D.C. a long time. Was he just saving the radicals in the party from themselves?
I can't figure it out because he's not a dumb guy. He handled this. This is the biggest disaster in terms of strategy that I think I've ever seen from him. It's a little bit of a reminder of what happens when, for whatever people think about Nancy Pelosi, she knew what she was doing. She knew how to wield power. And I do kind of wonder if some of this isn't the result of her absence, her withdrawing from center stage as leader of the party.
But was he wrong to? I mean, he gave the right advice, right?
He never should have allowed this to even become an issue because they are the party of government solves all problems. And then suddenly they're going to shut the government down, and which of course is exactly what Republicans want. And what you wind up with is they're saying, wait a second, you're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government. Well, we're going to shut down the government so you can't do that. Except shutting down the government only allows Trump to do that even more effectively. It is the dumbest thing I have ever seen out of a Democrat. Because Democrats are usually really strategically so much smarter than Republicans.
And united.
Yeah, they never snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which we've seen House Republicans do over.
Democrats had a very powerful, influential media at their disposal. Nobody cares anymore. They had Hollywood. People cared about Hollywood years back. Okay, nobody cares about Hollywood, the music industry, or media. Nobody trusts American media anymore. Mainstream media. Nobody trusts it. Okay, they've lied through their teeth about Trump every single second for the past 8 years in the most apoplectic and ludicrous, hysterical manner. Oh, he's a Kremlin operative. No, he wasn't. Oh, he tried to foment a rebellion. No, he didn't. Oh, he's a criminal. No, he's not. He was convicted in New York. He won the popular vote. So nobody believes that. Even Democrats don't even believe that Biden was the most popular candidate of all time. They ousted him within 4 years. I mean, it's like performance art. The Democratic Party was always, do not believe your lying eyes. Trump is worse. Don't believe that, a uranium sale at 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, private servers, laptops, social media censorship, fake and phony primaries that cheat Bernie Sanders, propping up a person with possible dementia and very likely serious cognitive issues, unfortunately. God bless him. Hope he, gets better. But, I mean, the Democrats are like... It's like the Wizard of Oz when you pull back the curtain and you see, oh my God, that's who was running the show. They projected such power for so many years, and we just found out that they had zero power, they had zero influence. It was all like a theatrical performance. Preemptively pardoning Falsey and Hunter and Schiff and they preemptively pardoned everyone that was at the heart of all their hoaxes. So let's continue.
The last couple of years, but he came in the final hours like, well, okay, we're good with it, but only for these many days instead of those many days. And by that point, he's showing his cards are weak, and so they just had to vote for it.
And you see this generational divide, of course. AOC representing the newer, more radical end of the party. She's probably also 1,000 times better at messaging to the base than Chuck Schumer.
American Girl, thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you so much for the kind words. The Browns, thank you. The Purge, profanity alert. Yes. You remember, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, American Girl and the Browns, and to my super chat. Thank you. Thank you so much. And American Girl, that was very, very kind of you. Thank you.
So she's gotten a lot more sort of support. Yeah, there's a few old school people, telling her to back down. But ultimately, whether Democrats like it or not, Charlie and Joey, she is the voice of the new generation of Democrats.
And who did Nancy Pelosi keep in her cross?
AOC is not the voice of the new generation of Democrats. There isn't a new generation of Democrats. And furthermore, they don't have functioning primaries. So if, for example, there was AOC winning a primary, she would then be usurped or removed from contention. They don't have a primary. They don't have functioning. A political party should usually have a functioning primary where you can pick the best candidate to go into a presidential contest, they're actually the ideas. I was a lifelong Democrat. I could tell you it's a racket, and they don't believe in anything they say, and they're just full, like, they lie. Trump is a saint, the most honest saint that's ever lived compared to the average Democratic politician and the political party. The Democrats are in a conundrum, and no liberal Democrat's going to watch this, but if they do, this is the conundrum. The policies or the value system or the goals, the objectives, the political ideology that gets Democrats or leftists or liberals really inspired is not feasible. So Medicare for all, single payer. People really want that, or they used to. Okay. Not feasible. They're not running on it. Green New Deal. People really care about that. They're not running on it. They don't want to touch it with a 1,000,000-foot pole. Because banning fracking, they've talked about that. Your heating your home would be double, or triple, or quadruple in price. None of their policies are actually feasible. None of it. It's all a warped, twisted morality play. They want to feel like they're morally superior. Then they're like, oh, the distribution of the Trump tax cuts. They kept the Trump's tax cuts. Democrats kept Trump's tariffs against China and Trump's tax cuts. And then they go after billionaires. They're literally funded by billionaires. If the billionaires didn't fund the Democratic Party, they wouldn't have funding. Who is going to want to fund high crime in major urban areas and cities? Okay? Nobody's going to want to fund that. But let's continue.
Crosshairs more than anybody else. AOC.
Yeah.
She kept her in place.
And she kept her in line.
She recognized she knew the threat.
They're supposed to be very crafted, like we said, with House Democrats. I don't think Hakeem Jeffries has that same control.
Yeah.
And, we sit here and maybe you want to say President Trump broke the Democratic Party. I think common sense broke the Democratic Party, and President Trump is taking advantage of it.
Good point, Joey.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
So they don't have a functioning political party. They don't have a functioning political party because they recreated that they pretended that they were these cold warriors when that country was invaded under Biden. I still don't understand how they don't have functioning primaries. They use private servers. They have laptops full of graft. Every major international catastrophe takes place under their watch. And still, the sane, rational people like Bill Maher are like, well, Trump is worse. No, he's not. He's great. He's actually enforcing laws that Democrats pretend. The Democrats deliberately don't enforce laws that they voted on pertaining to immigration. And when they're given a chance at giving Dreamer citizenship, they ignore it. Because Trump wanted a wall. Well, now he's going to get a wall. He's going to enforce laws. Hopefully, I want Dreamer. I have friends who are Dreamers. I want them to become citizens. And when they're talking about like sports and women's sports, they don't believe any of it. They're told to. It's whatever the latest thing that they think is moral. They don't believe any of it. If tomorrow, if a Democrat that had the influence within the Democratic Party, if the Democratic Party, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, tomorrow said, you know what, Trump is right, they would probably all agree that Trump was right, but wanted to, well, who knows? Maybe they're too far gone to actually. If the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN said, yeah, you know what, there should be peace there, they would say, maybe Trump's right about that, but he's wrong about everything else. They're very malleable in terms of value system. The things that they care about in 2025 were not the things they cared about in 2016. When I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, I wanted to end wars. Now I'm a supporter of President Trump for the past 7-8 years. I want to end wars with Trump is ending wars that Bernie would have continued. If they told Bernie Sanders to jump, he would have said, how high? How high do you want me to jump? Debbie Wasserman, thanks for cheating. Oh, actually, you didn't cheat me. Russia, if you're listening, I don't want your help. I mean, these are the true believers in the Democratic Party think that Democrats are cool with socialists and communists and democratic socialists. The far left is the biggest adversary of the Democratic Party, but they have convinced the far left, because the far left, unfortunately, is very gullible and actually, has no choice. If they're not if they don't vote Democrat, then they'll lose friends, family members. They'll be disowned by their own social circle, so they have to. But the greatest adversary of Democrats is not Trump. It's not Republicans or Trump or independents. It's the far left. The far left doesn't have policies that are feasible, and they'll completely dismantle the Democratic Party from within. Democrats know this. Schumer and Pelosi know this. That's why they have AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren pretending to be leftists. But let's continue.
Wow, listen to this.
Oh, wow.
The deadline to avoid a government shutdown is midnight tonight.
The Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, is backing down on his fight to block Trump's agenda, handing the president a big win.
Aisha Hasni is live on Capitol Hill with all the details for us. Hey, Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you guys. So we are expecting that vote on cloture to happen about 1:15 this afternoon. That is the most important vote, even more important than the government funding bill, because it unlocks that government funding bill. And that vote requires 8 Democrats to help Republicans out. That is why there's been so much beef on Capitol Hill. So we are still waiting to see how many Democrats who will join Senator Schumer after he made that big announcement last night. And the Democratic Party, really in crisis mode right now, because there are still so many Democrats in the House and in the Senate that oppose this government funding bill.
And did I mention that AOC takes money from insurance companies? Go look it up on Open Secrets. She took like 62 grand from this one giant insurance company that everybody knows. But you can look it up. It's on Open Secrets. It's a racket. It's the most transparent racket you've ever seen in your life. Okay? It's the most transparent racket you've ever seen in your life.
All right, buckle up, a lot of news to get to. The deadline to avoid a government shutdown is midnight tonight.
And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is backing down on his fight to block Trump's agenda. He's going to vote for this CR.
And this was stunning news that came down last night. Aisha Hasni's been there every step of the way. She's live at the Capitol right now. Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you guys. Well, the Democrats certainly have their gloves on this morning. They are waking up to a deeply divided party. We are actually waiting to find out which one of them in the Senate will join the GOP in funding the government to vote on this cloture vote. It's going to happen sometime in the 1 o'clock hour later this afternoon. And this is the vote, you guys, that unlocks the government funding bill. This is the vote that Republicans need Democrats to join them on. So Democrats, as you know, have been threatening to shut down the government because what they wanted in this government funding bill was to limit President Trump's authority to slash more government. Well, last night, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced that while they didn't get what they wanted, he is going to help fund the government because a shutdown, he says, would have been far more worse for federal workers. It would have given President Trump powers to decide who is essential and who is not.
A shutdown would give Donald Trump and Elon Musk carte blanche to destroy vital government services at a significantly faster rate than they can right now.
So it's true. He's right. DOGE and Musk and Trump would be able to find more corruption, potential fraud, wasteful spending with the government shut down. So Democrats, the way Democrats work, they're like, Musk and DOGE are finding out all of our racket and fundraising schemes and bizarre island of Dr. Moreau lab experiments and all of our millions for contraceptives in the Middle East. I mean, there's no CVS there. We're trying to help people. There's no Walgreens in Kabul. Oh, Musk and DOGE. What's this? We can shut down the government to make it easier for DOGE and Musk. Oh no! What do we do? If we don't get funding now, we can't Funnel the money into our political party. Oh, just vote for it. We're done anyway. Nobody believes us. Maybe we could accuse Trump of being an operative of another country, or maybe a planet this time. Maybe he works for Martians. Maybe Musk was sent by the Martians. Yeah, we'll try that. We'll do a Musk dossier. He was sent by from Mars. Trump is a Kremlin operative, and Musk was a Martian operative. That's our new AOC, and Bernie will lead the charge.
This change of heart came right after a heated lunch among Senate Democrats yesterday, in which it sounded like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand screaming at her colleagues about how a shutdown would look for them. Meanwhile, Republicans are out there taking a victory lap.
Chuck Schumer overplayed his hands, and fortunately we have Leader Thune who just outmaneuvered him. Thune said from the very beginning of this Congress that the Democrats can either do this the easy way or do it the hard way, and they have chose the hard way the entire time.
Meanwhile, some Democrats, like AOC, are eviscerating Schumer right now.
AOC is the best thing to happen to President Trump, the best thing to happen to this country. Supporters of President Trump, the popular vote. So she's also the best thing to happen to the Democratic Party in many ways. She should get a lot more power, and that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic, because then the far left that thinks that she's wonderful will realize that she doesn't believe in anything, that it's a racket. Okay, she's not going to run on the Green New Deal or a single-payer healthcare. She's not going to do anything. But this social media kind of, image thing. Oh, I'm upset with Schumer.
Right now, she says that there is actually still time, a few hours here, to kill this bill.
We have time to correct course on this decision. Senate Democrats can vote no. We can correct course to see Senate.
That would be fantastic, because then it would allow Musk and DOGE and Trump to further cut the funding that eventually goes to the Democratic Party. I agree with you 100%.
Democrats even consider acquiescing to Elon Musk. I think it is a huge slap in the face, and I think that there's a...
This is the lady who said, you guys, Elon Musk is not smart.
Wide sense of betrayal.
So this could also turn into a political problem for Chuck Schumer. There are some Democrats that are asking AOC to primary him in New York. And Brian, I know you said that his seat is probably safe, but you also want to consider his position here in the Senate as well. His seat might be safe in New York, but there are some questions about his leadership position here. Will there be a Senate Democrat that comes out that wants to jockey for that
But
position?
Aisha, what happened? Because we knew a cave was going to happen. They just don't have the leverage right now. But something explosive happened in that lunch that we didn't anticipate. I know a lot of the members didn't want to go on record after that meeting, which told you that the leadership had told them to keep their mouth shut. What are you hearing?
Well, Senate Democrats were certainly pressured to hold the line when House Democrats, pretty much the entire conference except for one member, stood together and voted no on this bill. So as soon as the House acted the way that it did, at least the Democrats in the House, and Senate Democrats had pressure on them to do the exact same thing. And that was the plan. It turned into a stare down, which is what always happens during these fights. And what happened during the lunch, they've been having these meetings. I think it's been 3 times so far this year. They've had these meetings that have gone over an hour, and we weren't getting really anything out of the Democrats that were leaving the meeting. They would go to the bathroom, they would leave, we would ask questions, they wouldn't say anything. So clearly someone had told them not to talk. And then suddenly we heard screaming. I mean, full-blown shouting at her colleagues, and it was clear to me, I was the first person to say, I think that's Kirsten Gillibrand, and then we all started leaning in, and it was clear that she was unhappy with how this shutdown would.
Florida Man Bear, thank you. Thank you. This is what happened. Whether it was Gillibrand or it was AOC, I have the audio. It was like this. You guys, you are so wrong. You know, if we allow Musk and DOGE to continue cutting bureaucracy and government funding, then we won't be funded, because that's how we actually funnel and launder money into our political party. So you guys, stop it. This is our last chance to actually get funded anywhere close to what we've been doing the past 30, 40 years. Gosh, you guys, so angry with you.
The Democrats look, it just wasn't worth it politically to them.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullins said you could hear them down the hallway. That's how loud it was behind that closed door, in that closed door session amongst the Democrats. What about the votes? I know you said
no matter what they went through, it wasn't anything close to what Bill Clinton went through when Hillary lost. Reportedly, she threw a Bible at him, which, could you imagine? She turned into Nolan Ryan and like just hurled this Bible at poor Bill Clinton. Oh, I know what we can do now. We could just go ahead and write a Steele dossier based on our lives. Boy, I was going to write an autobiography about me and Hunter, but we'll make a Steele dossier and accuse Trump of everything.
earlier you're not really sure, but have you heard anyone might be leaning? Because Republicans need 7 votes from the Democrats. It sounds like they do have it with Chuck Schumer. What about
Bizarro world? Yes. Florida Man Bear. Thank you. Thank you.
the other Democrats? Do they have the 7?
So we actually made a list of some Democrats last night. The Hill team got together. We made a list. And I can tell you that Senator Tim Kaine is a possible yes as well. He said that he would be if he got those amendments. They want to be able to vote on certain things before the actual government funding bill. We could also see people like some of these folks that are retiring soon. They're not going to run for re-election. You've got like Peters in Michigan. We could also see Slotkin, who is a little bit more pragmatic. And then possibly some others out there that might come forward and help to shield some of these more vulnerable Democrats that are up for re-election.
The Democrats run on big government, and then they want to shut down the government, which would actually have helped DOGE, Musk, and Trump undercut their funding. What do they have now? I mean, is it the good old days where they can, make a dossier and then James Comey would say, oh, potentially he sold the country to the Martians, potentially. I mean, is it like nobody cares? Like the Washington Post, the New York Times could come out with intel officials. They say that Trump is trying to sell the entire planet. Oh, what's this? John Radcliffe runs CIA now, and Kash Patel runs Federal Bureau. Good luck with that. DOJ is run by Pam Bondi, so Democrats don't have the full control of government agencies. Like, I love it. Like, the DOJ was always so independent. Oh, that's right. Yes, of course. When they tried to imprison their direct political rival, they were so independent. And then Bill Maher's like, well, Paul Manafort was had a person who was working with Russian intelligence. Like, well, the Clinton Foundation was received. Well, we can go on forever with that, but under President Obama, 20% of U.S. uranium capacity was eventually sold to the Kremlin. What do you think's worse? It's like they get away with infinitely worse in terms of ties and contacts, and the Mueller probe, page 17, found zero evidence to support any criminal charges. And you wouldn't even have needed the Mueller probe. There was a Steele dossier that was literally purchased by Clinton and the DNC. They created hoaxes that Democrats didn't they still believe these absurd hoaxes. But anyway, let's continue. Hopefully AOC can save the party.
In 2 years.
I mean, Kelly's indicated too he would be somewhat open to it, but they wanted that 30 days, right? They wanted Schumer to go to bat for 30-day CR, and that just collapsed.
CR.
Yeah,
they wanted a clean CR, and they're saying this is a dirty CR, that it's not exactly what they passed back in December or months before that. That there are some provisions that are a little bit different here, a little bit more defense spending. I think.
Independent free thinker, thank you. I agree with you on that. Thank you, independent free thinker.
There's a naval ship that's going to be built. There's money in there for that. So there are some differences in that. The key thing that they really wanted that wasn't included by Speaker Johnson was this provision to limit the president's authority to basically slash or cut government wherever he deemed it was necessary. And Republicans just weren't going to go for that.
Of course not. Aisha, thanks so much.
Thanks, Aisha.
I'm Steve Doocy.
So they basically have nothing, you know. By the way, I will have a live stream tonight at around 10:30 p.m. Eastern. They have nothing in terms of they don't. Democrats had an entrenched Washington bureaucracy and establishment that despised Trump. But if you live by bureaucracy, and if you live by politics and bureaucracy and wielding that type of influence and power, then your demise will emanate from that gigantic apparatus being controlled by your adversaries. This is not rocket science. So the same intel agencies that will eventually be part of indictments of Democrats who potentially committed crimes, they're not going to be believed by Democrats. You know, appeals to authority only matter when the organization or the expert agree with the Democrat. If the expert or the organization or the government disagrees with Democrats, then it's Trump's cronies took over, and it's not like a nonpartisan DOJ. Like, you'd have to be a fool to believe any of that.
So many things to talk about here, but Chuck Schumer 2 days ago basically had Democrats walk the plank, and then last night he sawed it off. And here we are today now with a win for Donald Trump and Democrats completely in disarray. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Oh, no. And I was trying to think about it. I think the last time I saw Democrats in this much disarray was probably in 2004 after John Kerry lost to George W. Bush. And that was even, that wasn't even as bad as this time because, of course, George W. Bush was running as an incumbent, and so he had the power of the incumbent. They are completely lost, and it's so much worse because they have lost because Donald Trump has cannibalized all of their good issues. He's taken every single good issue they have and taken it away from them, so that they're left with this insane situation where they're threatening a government shutdown. They are the party of government. They're the party of government is the answer to all your problems, and we're going to shut it down. And then, of course, as you point out, he saws the plank off and leaves Democrats holding the bag. And you have a situation where you have Senate Democrats versus House Democrats. You have leadership Democrats versus other leadership Democrats. One other thing I think is kind of interesting is as Nancy Pelosi kind of fades into the background, I swear, you know, I know Republicans tend to not like her, but she was so gifted at keeping Democrats together. Yeah. And we are seeing her absence right now.
She was gifted because very likely all of her stock picks, she's actually better than Warren Buffett in terms of stocks and the market. Warren Buffett is like an ignoramus compared to Nancy Pelosi and her husband, who are absolutely fantastic and definitely didn't benefit from insider trading. But it's actually good that Pelosi, there is no Democratic Party. It's like a social club. People said to me, oh, how could you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump? But there's a direct line. In 2016, Bernie Sanders was more like Trump today than any Democrat today. And anyway, Bernie Sanders he doesn't believe in anything. You know, he's part of a racket also. He's a phony also. Probably a good human being, good person, but he sold his soul to politics. He was cheated in his own primary, in the Democratic primary, and said nothing about it. And the journalists who risked their lives, and one in particular who had to be imprisoned, who was imprisoned because primarily he told the truth. Okay, he was a publisher, published emails that showed that the Democrats were cheating their own candidate. You think Bernie Sanders spoke out for Assange or Snowden or anybody? He doesn't believe anything that he says. He doesn't believe anything he says. It's a racket. The far left, I was on the left my whole life. For a second on the far left. They don't believe anything. They've convinced themselves they're morally superior. They really like hanging out in digital, like, social media groups. It's like a social club. And if you deviate in any way, shape, or form, you're excommunicated. You've committed heresy. It's like a religious cult. And the people like Pelosi and Schumer need that religious cult of the far left. So they have AOC and they have Bernie Sanders and the squad pretend to care about the far left. If the far left had any sense, they would try to make their own political party, a functioning political party. But what would happen is Democrats would completely obliterate it immediately. So that's part of the racket also.
But she's also present because, Judge, she's saying that Schumer needs to go and that the Senate leadership has completely failed. I find it so interesting that you have Hakeem Jeffries, who lives down the street from Chuck Schumer in Brooklyn. That's a little awkward. Neighbors is not being the one who said who should primary him. It's AOC, also down the street.
Yeah, it's interesting that AOC, just kind of as an aside before I get into it, with the, the division between the House Dems and the Senate Dems, but AOC is doing some interesting things. I think that whether or not Hakeem Jeffries wants to admit it, I mean, they're furious with Schumer's. If you think about it, I mean, he's the one with the Corona beer, and he was at all the DOGE protests and the avocados, and he was singing and he was doing the videos, and now all of a sudden he did a U-turn. Honestly, I think it was a smart move. I don't think the Democrats realize that, because they would have given Donald Trump power to decide, who gets paid, what's considered an essential job. And so Donald Trump could say, you people are not essential, so you're not going to get paid. I mean, Schumer was between a rock and a hard place, and he made the decision not to shut the government down. But we all know that the party in power is the one that suffers when the government is shut down. But I want to go to AOC. Now, AOC is doing what Gavin Newsom is doing. She said that she's going to start going into
Gavin Newsom is trying to reinvent himself, which is very hilarious.
The red districts and town halls, and
the more the country hears from AOC, the better it is for President Trump. God bless you, AOC. I pray to God, the same God that Democrats don't believe in. I pray to God that AOC controls and runs the Democratic Party. It'll be fantastic. It will be the best when AOC is like, you guys, it's true Bernie Sanders won, but honestly, you guys, we need Harris to run again. So Bernie, you're cheated, okay? But don't tell anybody. You got it, AOC. Do you need Debbie Wasserman Schultz with me on stage? Or should I just relinquish the crown to Harris again? Okay, let's get a helicopter to televac Biden, and we can all be on stage and give the crown to Harris for the third time in a row after the seventh time of Democrats cheating me. And this will be very good for democracy and save democracy from Trump. Yeah, you guys, that's what you should do.
She's going to go out there with Bernie Sanders. And I think the time for her is now or never. I think she is making a decision that, you know what? I think that this is the time for me to get out there, because Schumer is out of sync with us. And if there's anything that she has done in the last few years since she's come to Congress, she's become more thoughtful. And she's become more reasoned, and she makes it clear what it is that she's thinking. So they've got a real divide within the party, and I think that she is the one who might be able to put it all together.
So, Harold, from a strategy,
building your custom home is now easier.
This was a situation where Democrats initially wanted to shut the government down, saying they could blunt President Trump's agenda. Then they realized what the judge just said about Trump actually having more power in a shutdown to say, we just need essential workers. Now everybody else who's not working, DOGE can say, why are they employed by the federal government at all? So now they're in this position where they're voting for the CR, but it's actually a Biden level spending CR. So it's not like they're really losing that much. And now you have this infighting within the party, and AOC, who is admittedly far left, is the one.
Trump came out against assault. Democrats are like that kind of lonely, unpopular neighbor that's next to the neighbor throwing an amazing kegger. And that unpopular neighbor is trying to figure out, do I try to sneak in and join the fun, or do I call the cops on them and break up the party? They decided to try to sneak in because they know, you don't want to be the person, you don't want to be the party that's only known for one thing: stopping people from having fun. It's like a heckler at a comedy club. The heckler is hated not just by the comedian, but by the entire crowd, especially if the comedian is good. They want you thrown out of there. Plus, think about shutting down the government. If you shut down the government, that doesn't shut down DOGE, does it? No. It's like you could shut down the government, come back, and your Che Guevara desk calendar could be gone. So maybe you keep the government open so you can make sure that you've got an eye on DOGE. Mark Kelly is kind of disappointing to me. He puts the ass in astronaut. Here's a guy who spent years guilting us over climate change, and then he sells his electric car, and what does he buy? A Chevy Tahoe. Tahoes consume gas like The View consumes pie. And it's something tells me that he had planned that. He didn't just I'm selling my EV. It was planned a long time ago. He was exploiting.
The funny thing is that Teslas are by far the best electric vehicles. And so if you're like, you know what? I'm going to sell my Tesla and I'm going to buy another electric vehicle. The EV isn't going to be as good. They're kind of trying to catch up, but they're never going to really catch up to Tesla.
Exploiting that sale for a virtue signal. I do this all the time. I'll give a scented candle to Kat. She go, I'm so nice that you thought of me. She doesn't know that Dana gave it to me. It's just like you just exploited it. By the way, if you sell your electric car, it doesn't hurt Musk. You already paid for it, so it doesn't matter. But virtue signaling always supersedes common sense. If Trump came out against assault, leftists would punch themselves in the face. And just lastly, not enough has been said about the violence directed at these Tesla dealerships and how they relate to the stock drop. Because why would somebody buy something that puts a target on their back? So it's mob pressure that is used to kill demand. It's social extortion. That's nothing else. And Tesla, in a way, has become like a MAGA hat that gives you an excuse to throw something at it,
Well, here's the moment. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer backed down on his threats to force a shutdown.
While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people.
So Democrats, they're in complete disarray, complete and utter disarray. They have nobody waiting in the wings. They have nobody to lead the political party. God forbid, President Trump couldn't lead. You'd have J.D. Vance, who's a good leader. Okay? If, God forbid, J.D. Vance couldn't lead, you would have, a fight or a battle between DeSantis and Marco Rubio. Okay? It's not like, Trump or Republicans it's not like Republicans are, oh my God, are we going to have to get Chris Christie to lead us? That's not happening. Democrats are now looking at AOC, which is, for many reasons, the best thing to ever happen to Trump and to the country. If after decades, Pelosi and Schumer couldn't salvage this monstrosity of a political party that was funded through very shady, corrupt, likely illegal means, I think it'll be very interesting to see AOC lead the political party, especially when her value system she likely doesn't believe in. She's taking money from insurance companies, but none of her policies the Democrats don't want any of her policies. Green New Deal, they don't want that. Single payer, they don't want that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, be here tonight to my super chat. Thank you to the members. Thank you. Thank you for gifting memberships, people. Thank you. And just thank you so much, everybody. Greatly, 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 greatly appreciated, everybody. Trout fishing, thank you. The Browns, American Girl, Florida Man Bear, thank you so very, very much. Independent, thank you. Everybody here, everybody who gave the super chat, greatly appreciated. I'll see you